fibers from her jacket were found in the paint tray, were found tied into the ligature found on JonBenet's neck, were found on the blanket that she's wrapped in, were found on the duct tape that's found on her mouth. I have no evidence from any scientist to suggest that those fibers are from any source other than your red jacket.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. That bombshell comes from the August 28, 2000 interview with Patsy Ramsey in Atlanta, Georgia. She was questioned by Michael Caine, Bruce Levine, Mitch Morrissey, Mark Beckner, Tom Wickman, Tom Trujillo, and Jane Harmer. Mark Levine went on to ask Patsy, in addition to those questions, there are some others that I would like you to think about whether or not we can have Mrs. Ramsey perhaps in the future answer. I understand that you are advising her not to today, meaning advising her not to answer. And there are black fibers that, according to our testing that was conducted, that match one of the two shirts that was provided to us by the Ramseys, black shirt. Those are located in the underpants of JonBenet Ramsey, were found in her crotch area, and I believe those are two other areas that we intended to ask Mrs. Ramsey about if she could help us in explaining their presence in those locations. But before we get to the rest of this analysis, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I must say, whenever we deal with some crucial subject matter that really stands head and shoulders above all the others, I tend to expect that it's going to get the lion's share of your attention, and I'm so often disappointed. For example, the last video no one was interested in, and that video basically lays the groundwork for this one. If you did watch that last video and you're finding this analysis worthwhile, interesting, something you've never heard before, please hit the thanks button and let's get started. So I think you'll agree with me, this is crucial evidence, and it makes it quite clear why Detective Steve Thomas believed what he believed, said what he said. Now let's go to the April 30th, 1997 police interview with Patsy Ramsey. Patsy was shown a photo of herself taken at the White's Christmas party dinner in the same clothes she was wearing when police arrived the next day. Black velvet pants, a red sweater, and a red and black checkered jacket. Incredibly, police waited a year before they asked for the clothing that the Ramseys wore to the White's party. Forensic tests showed similarities between fibers from Patsy's jacket and sweater and fibers found on the duct tape that covered JonBenet's mouth. Asked about the clothing, Patsy gave answers that totally confused the issue. And this is from an excerpt from JonBenet, The Police Files by National Enquirer Don Gentile and David Wright, published December 3rd, 2002. What do you guys say? Should we go to that 1997 police interview with Patsy? What does Patsy say about these fibers in 1997? Well, she seemed to put shade onto Priscilla White. She says, Priscilla had a jacket like this. I mean, until I saw this picture, I had thought that I had worn my Christmas sweater to their house. And then I saw this picture and I said, oh, I must have worn that sweater to their house. But then I thought, well, maybe I had her jacket. I mean, I don't know. Trip DeMuth answers that you were wearing yours on Christmas and not hers? Patsy, well, I mean, I could have been in her house in the living room, what I mean, and been cold and said, here, put this on. I just can't remember. My point is that we both had jackets similar to that. Trip DeMuth, okay. Patsy, so I don't know. DeMuth, and did you buy them at the same place? Patsy, no, I mean, I don't know. I really don't remember. For your information, I mean. Now, I think one thing you can't get around is if she was wearing Priscilla's jacket, did she take Priscilla's jacket home as well? And we do need to consider an innocent explanation for these fibers, such as Patsy putting JonBenet Ramsey to bed while she was wearing the jacket. But what about fibers in the ligature and in the paint tray? Demuth goes on to ask her, so can you tell me if that's your jacket you're wearing? Or Patsy says, this one, you mean? Demuth, were they the exact same? Patsy, they were pretty close, but I can't really remember. Demuth, So that's quite significant. You know, if they're exactly the same, that's significant. If they're not, well, that doesn't really count for anything. Patsy goes on to say, why I would have hers on. All I'm saying is, first time somebody asked me what I had on that day, I think I might have said that I had my Christmas sweater on, which is a little beaded one. And then when I saw this picture, somebody showed me this picture, Demuth, because they wanted the clothing. I said, oh, I must have worn that one. So I got that one instead. I think I sent both of them, actually. Demuth, you sent both of them? Patsy, the beaded one or whatever. Now, I think it's inevitable that one's got to ask the question, how believable does Patsy sound in this particular area, in this particular context of the evidence? How credible does Patsy sound to you? And this is a vital question in a vital area. You know, we really need to be able to believe Patsy given the crucial evidence in this particular area. If we go from this to the Bonita papers, they were written, I think, in 1999. She also makes reference to other fibers, this time in a very intimate part of JonBenet's body discovered during the autopsy. Dr. Mayer was not able to determine if there had been any previous trauma to this intimate area of JonBenet. He stated that it appeared that JonBenet's private area may have been cleaned or at least wiped by someone using a towel or piece of clothing. Small dark blue fibers consistent with a cotton towel were recovered in this area as well. And so I think what you've got to imagine is whoever is doing this is possibly leaving fibers from their own clothing behind. And then obviously also ask the question, who was doing this? In addition to red and black fibers, they also found animal hair, probably beaver, that is from Cellmark Laboratories, who were also conducting the testing on the duct tape. Now, where do you think beaver hair would come from in terms of someone's clothing? And who do you think would most likely be wearing something with beaver hair? The final point I want to make in terms of this analysis is from Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, page 240. Meanwhile, the duct tape was sent to the FBI, which had a large database for matching purposes. Remember how often John Ramsey says, why didn't they call the FBI? Why weren't the FBI involved? They were actually involved. Listen to this. Special Agent Douglas Diedrich, an FBI hair and fiber specialist who had testified in the O.J. Simpson criminal case. Once again, we have that case influencing this case. Well, Diedrich notified Boulder PD that he had found what seemed to be red and black microscopic fiber traces on the duct tape. The 4 fibers would have to be analyzed further to determine what kind they were, and that is exactly what happened. I'm going to conclude by playing a little excerpt from an interview on, I think it was CBS, with Katie Couric.
He refused to let Patsy go on the record, but she did go on the record with us. What do you think about these fibers?
After Don discovered the body and he was brought to the living room, when I laid eyes on him, I knelt down and thanked her.
So, what do you think? Plausible deniability or not?
That I was in my whole body, on her body. My sweater fibers or whatever I had on it are going to transfer to her clothing.
Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.